What is up, everybody? Welcome to another one-on-one. I'm Get Flanked, and today I'm joined by Hyper. This is going to be a fun episode here. We have a chance now to sit down and kind of look back at the first split for NA R6 League, and I'm looking forward to doing that with Hyper. We're going to be going over how the split went so far. We're sitting here with the highest rated player for that split, and I'm excited to get into this. So I guess first of all, Hyper, thanks for joining me. And I guess let's just start out with how would you? What are your thoughts on the split? You know, we have a little bit of a break between now and the NA Major, so kind of a chance to reflect. What are your thoughts on how the split went for you as a player and as the team?
Firstly, thank you for having me on Flanked. The split, like the first stage, I thought actually went very well. We beat Tempo, and then we also beat TSM. Pretty, pretty convincingly, I'd say. The TSM match was a little close, but honestly, it probably shouldn't have. The second stage, however, we completely flopped. We played TSM again, lost, and first we played SSG, lost. That game, like, honestly, wasn't even close. Like, they completely destroyed us. Same thing with the TSM game. So, I think at least against the TSM match, they like completely outclassed us. I feel like we were just getting gunned. And then like Oregon, at least Coastline, that was a story there. Oregon, they completely like outclassed us with like strategy and just like teamwork.
I guess the question that I would have is what went wrong between the first stage and the second stage. So, what's the difference between beating TSM in the first stage and then playing them again in the second stage and losing?
Um, I honestly don't know the full reasoning, but um, against TSM, it's very weird. They're like a pretty mechanically reliant team, so I can't tell if it was just on their part they just weren't like feeling themselves the first time, or they were just really feeling themselves the second time. Um, but Oregon, I feel like is definitely one of their better maps. Coastline, I personally believe is kind of like a 50-50 map. Whatever team is like shooting on that map wins. Uh, so I don't know. I don't want to blame it on maps because it's not. They just destroyed us. But um, we currently like our team has a lot of internal issues more than we have like game issues. A lot of our issues are a lot like consist of communication and teamwork issues. Like I'm gonna be really honest. We just don't work well together.
Well, that's the first time. I'm really surprised to hear you say that. That's the first that I have really heard that. I mean, is it how long? I mean, is it something where losing brings out these flaws, or is it something that you've noticed for a long time and it just kind of caught up to you?
So I mean, we've kind of had it for a while. Like some teams just naturally like get together. Like you'll pick up players and they'll just naturally mesh with the team inside and outside the game. And others you just kind of hope it clicks down the road, and sometimes it doesn't. It's just how it works. This is like the first team I've been on where it's not. It's like we're all like on paper we're literally all ridiculous players. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to
No,
curse here.
you're good. You're good.
Um, it's just like we just don't work well together. And the thing is like we can beat like every team. It's just like TSM we're just like 50-50 on. Like we really sometimes we beat them, sometimes they beat us. And SSG, like honestly, we haven't had any success beating them recently.
So when you say like you're not working well together, is there any like kind of specifics you can get into there as far as like what does that mean? Is it I don't know. What does that mean for that for the person who watches and has never participated on a team like this?
So I think part of the issue was so when we got rid of Brandon, he was like a pretty like big secondary shot caller, and him and Kyle like worked really well together. And we've kind of been having shot calling issues, and it's not on our shot callers because it's whoever like relays the information to the shot callers so they can make the proper shots. Um, and a lot of the times, like Alex or Kyle won't be in a position to shot call based on like what they play. Like as you see, like Troy, he plays like hard breach and like where he roams on defense, so he's always in a position to like make a round winning call. But a lot of the times, Kyle's on like flank and Alex is on like buck or sledge, and he's just like sledging above. So I honestly think our main issues are like relaying information to the IGLs and for them to make like proper shots.
Well, I think as we're talking about this, it's important to relay to everybody. I mean, you guys finished fourth place in NA, which means you qualified for the NA major. So you finished in the top half of the league, and it's not like everything was a complete failure, but certainly fourth place in NA is not anywhere close to I know the expectations that you guys have for yourselves, as well as what the org has for you guys as a roster. And I think that the weird thing for me looking at this is if you go back a couple seasons, you're finishing first, you're finishing second, and then all of a sudden that hasn't happened for the last few seasons. If it's been kind of hard to keep track of because of there's no LAN events, but the last season before this, you finished out of the top two, which means you wouldn't have gone to that LAN. Now there wasn't a LAN, so again, it's not as noticeable, but you know. So I guess what happened? Is there anything you look at like what went wrong from going perennial first, second for a couple seasons there in a row to now finishing fourth 2 seasons in a row, or a split in a season in a row?
I think there's like a multitude of reasons. One being, I don't know. In my personal belief, I think NA is like by far the best region. I think EU is like really close second. Um, and it's just my belief. I know it's kind of unfair to say because there's no like lands recently, but just going off like Six Invitational and just how teams look, um, I do think NA is like a stronger region. Like their top four is probably like top four globally, or like at least top five. Um, that being said, it's not really like an excuse. I do think we should definitely be top two, like result wise. Um, but clearly we're not. Uh, I'm not really sure like what the exact issue is on our part. Just a lot of the internal issues we're having, we can't really seem to solve. And like it's not like we don't know our issues. We're like trying to solve them, but they just haven't been getting like resolved.
I want to put you on the spot a little bit here. Um, let me ask you this. Okay, so if we go back to Japan, what was the Dark Zero roster in Japan when you finished runner up to Navi? That would have been Nix was still on the team at that
Nix,
time.
it was Nix, Brandon, me, Kyle, Matt. So
Okay,
Hotancold, Mint, BC, Nix, and me.
your team right now, or I guess, is your team right now performing as well as that team did?
Result wise, no, but I do think like by far we are better than that roster. I do think like I don't think at all like that roster is better than what we are right now. Like if we were like somehow be able to play each other, like we would completely destroy them. Yeah.
um, I think what you're saying there makes a lot of sense. I mean, you think about obviously SSG. If we look through the NA teams here, SSG has been on a crazy run for the last year. I mean, if you look at SSG over the last year compared to the year before, night and day as far as performance, they have been on one. And you look at Oxygen. I mean, you look at the way they're performing now compared to 6 months ago when they were Reciprocity. Holy cow, huge improvement from them. Soniqs. I mean, Soniqs are a legit good team, in my opinion. You look at TSM. Compare TSM to now, compared to when they first got Bolo. Again, huge improvements from them as far as how they're performing. So, NA definitely is more difficult now than what it was whenever you guys were in those couple seasons. So, why have those teams taken a big step forward and maybe you haven't?
SSG I know took a step forward by picking up Troy. They kind of lacked having like a primary shot caller for a while. I know Bosco. I personally know Bosco. He's not really, he doesn't feel comfortable being a main shot caller, but he's a really good secondary from what I've heard on their podcast. But TSM, I think Bolo getting comfortable and then like Geo taking the role of Pojo and like being able to like lead the team, I think is also pretty good. Let to their recent success for Soniqs. Soniqs are really good. They picked up basically they being able to play with their European players and iconic. I think this is the best Sonics we've ever seen. They're definitely top five in my opinion. One thing I want to say about Tokoname is I don't want to take any credit away from APAC teams, but we also played we played FaZe with a sub, and we played Aerowolf after, and I know that's people are gonna take that the wrong way, but I didn't really find the path to get to the finals like very difficult, and then against Navi we kind of failed to show up again.
Well, I think anybody who follows the game closely would agree with you that that wasn't the toughest road there. I mean, and do you struggle? Like, is that your normal personality? Like, what about the invitational? Okay, so invitational. Again, you look at your path there. You beat BDS, you beat Empire, which at the time seemed like a really big deal beating Empire, but in hindsight, maybe Empire. I mean, obviously Empire was struggling at that time. And then you end up winning one more match. Was it against FaZe at Invitational?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
against FaZe.
So do you look at that the same way, or do you give yourself and the roster a little bit more credit for your performance at Invitational?
It's very weird. It almost seems like we do really well in groups and like the beginning stage, and as soon as we get to playoffs, we like completely don't show our like the true versions of ourselves. At least the way we did in groups. In groups, we had extreme success. I give ourselves credit there. Hard to say if Empire was at their best. I don't know if we beat them and they got like demoralized or something, but I wouldn't know unless like an EU player told me how scrims are going with them prior to the invitational. But FaZe, really good team. They played with their full roster there, and it felt good to get like revenge on them from Rally when they beat us, and we couldn't make it out of groups. And then BDS is always a kind of good team, and I believe like we even against playing SSG, we control like their superstar players. Like against SSG, like you usually don't see their usual standout performers having success against us, like Rampy, Fultz. Fultz actually had a pretty good game, but Bosco was their main person, and even against like BDS, like Shiko doesn't really like show up against us at least recently. So I think that's something we have. Just the way we play, we just don't really feed people like kills that they want. So I give us credit there.
Going back and talking a little bit about the split, it's been very well documented for anybody who's watched that you all had a lot of success. I think you ended up finishing the top-rated attacking team, but the worst defending team, which is actually kind of amazing that you guys made it top four as the worst defending team in NA. What's going on there?
I don't know. It's very weird to be the best at the most difficult side and the worst at the hardest side, or well, the easiest side. Sorry. Um, our defense issues are pretty obvious, in my opinion, and we made rule changes to like adjust for them. But we have like five playmakers on the team. We pretty much, other than Kyle, we all are like looking to make plays to win the round, and it's just like poor timing, and we just like throw away leads. We don't really know how to place certain sites from what I see. Um, but we recently made a change where we're putting Kyle on the roam, so he's a lot more like call oriented, and that was like pretty successful. So we'll see how it goes in the next matchup.
When you say that your defensive issues are pretty apparent, do you mind just kind of talking about what you think that those issues are exactly?
Um, I think I think it's a couple things. One being obviously we didn't have a shot caller on the roam, so I think like the site part of it, like obviously defense is split up into two sections. It's like site and roam on most sites. Sometimes you like extend like horizontally, and you won't really have a roam. You'll just have like an extension of a site, so you don't really need a roam, like at least a shot caller. But I think like having a shot call on the roam is super powerful because if you have a decision maker that can call for like what they need that like they know needs to be done to win the round, like a flank or a C4 kill or staying under rather than helping site or helping site when they need help and not staying under, is like super strong defensively. I think that's something that SSG has. Um, and another issue is it seems like we're not synced up. Like when we don't really help each other in some spots, and then sometimes we help someone that doesn't need help, where it's like a minute 30 and like this guy's calling for help and we go help him and then we end up dying and then we lose the round right there. So I think those are our main issues.
Let me throw something at you from my extremely casual, analysis, because obviously I watch all of your matches, and at least whenever I look at like the TSM and SSG matches that you lost, when I look at your defenses, a lot of times it feels like to me that you've got like an offsite presence, but you end up falling back with like maybe like a minute and a half back left, and you'll be in like these 5v5 situations where you're all five on site or really close to it, and they're setting up around site and getting information. And it seems like those rounds very rarely go your direction. And maybe it's not always 4v4, maybe it's not always 5v5. Sometimes it's 4v4s or something like that. Am I on to something there? Do you recognize that as well?
Yeah, I definitely realize that sometimes. Sometimes it's just how the strat's designed. Like we're just designed to waste time, but who really knows if that's the best way to play? Um, I do think that's probably not how we should play. I do believe that we should be playing like more aggressively on defense, making plays, giving the like attack issues leading up to hitting the site, so they can't really have like their full structured attack. Because if you let it get to a 5v5 on attack and like teams know what they're doing, like SSG, like they're just gonna execute and you're just gonna lose. So you can't really stop it once it's already gone there. So you just want to like cause issues beforehand.
Especially with a minute, like if they've got a minute left and full map control, they are going to find out where every single person is on site, right? Like that's really what it comes down to. If they have time to get all the information they need on site, they're going to win the execute. Because I mean, when you think about it, attackers are at a disadvantage inherently in the game, but they have the better guns and the better utility for that specific situation. So that's one thing that has kind of jumped out to me. So talking a little bit about your personal performance, I mentioned before that you finished number one rated player in NA. What are some positives from your performance this on this split? Like what do you think allowed you to be the highest rated player?
I think the work that I put in off season, I did like a lot of studying of other teams, a lot of studying of myself and my teammates. I've been asking people to like watch VODs with me and just critique my performance, like my teammates, my coaches. I think work ethic is pretty prevalent there. But when it comes to like statistics, I honestly don't really care that much about like personal. All that matters to me is like how the team's doing. So I don't really like get an ego, I guess, over that stuff. Or it's just nice to know if you're doing well. It's really all that is.
How do you feel like you played in the losses?
The TSM loss, I think I played decent map 1, but not good enough. And then map 2, I just couldn't. It's like almost nothing I was doing was working. I don't think I played particularly bad against TSM. It just looks like that statistically, and that will happen in Siege where like you feel like you're playing good, but like nothing's going your way, or like you just the tiny timings, like 3 times, or like I don't know, I got naded one round from underneath. I got TK'd one round. So I mean, it's just like tiny things like that. They just add up. And SSG, I still think I played a little poor, but I played a little bit better there individually.
I want to talk about that Soniqs match a little bit. That's been hailed by many as at least one of the best games that we've watched of Siege in a very long time. I think it's up there as one of my favorite matches, or the most entertaining matches that I've ever watched. What was that match like to play in?
It was, I mean, It was stressful afterwards. I don't really get stressed. I don't really get stressed mid match.
Like looking back on it, you're like, man, that was stressful.
Yeah, I like after the match, I was like, wow, my knees are like weak. I've never been this like exhausted before and tired. But it's like the feeling I got as soon as the match got like ended. It was just like I feel extremely tired. I was like super focused on the match. There's a lot of heartbreaking rounds that we lost. A lot of heartbreaking rounds that they lost.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, it's just like thrown rounds. Console was kind of like honestly a show against the Sonics. The other maps were the first. I believe we lost the first map, Villa. They just completely outclassed us. And then Coast, we had a very prevalent lead.
I think it was 6-2, wasn't it? It was 6-2.
It was 6-2. One round we got because Kyle long armed the diffuser and Hookah.
Yes.
But honestly, looking at the attacks, I think we should have ended 5-1. I know shoulda, coulda, woulda, but just looking back at that match, we probably shouldn't have had it that close. But the same could be said about the Sonics.
On the last two maps, you had leads. On Consulate, the lead wasn't as much, but there was a lead there, and you ended up giving it up and going to overtime on both of those maps. What was the team's mood as that lead was slipping away?
After Alex lost the 2v1 clutch in lobby, he was pretty upset. But I think we were all pretty like we're not gonna lose like kind of mentality. We didn't really let that get to us, and like we still made changes going to OT of what we're gonna do to make sure we don't lose.
The that Consulate map, do you think the Jaeger Nomad ban played into what you're calling like a show at all?
No. The Nomad ban maybe. But there weren't really a lot of like jump outs or anything like Nomad would control. The Jaeger ban doesn't really affect anything. Maybe it affects the garage takes a little bit, but other than that, like CEO, we just didn't go to CEO. So, and garage, we just played with Maya, but we played a little bit passively. But I think I was watching Seth's stream and someone asked him why they banned Jaeger, and they said it was the target ban me. But funny thing was, going into Consulate, we made a role change prior, like 3 days ago. So I was playing Maestro on pretty much every site in Consulate. So it just was unlucky, I guess.
They played themselves, huh? With that, I thought having those bans made it pretty interesting, especially the Nomad ban, because I just feel like so many times in Pro League it's like drone out an area of the map, get that map control, set up an air jab, boom, you've got that map control. Never again will it be contested. And in that match, it was, there were a couple of times Eclipse was coming up like Visa Stairs and making a play, just getting a pick, but that's stuff we don't see a lot if there's a Nomad ban there. So I think that was part of it being fun to watch. Okay. So we've talked, some issues. Obviously, you've been really, really honest about what you feel like the issues are on the team. We've got the NA mini major, I guess you could call it, coming up. What are you guys doing to try to get this stuff fixed before then?
We're making role changes. That's one, but we're also we're putting in a lot more effort outside of the game and inside. We're also changing the way we practice. I don't know if I want to get into that,
sure,
because it's like team stuff, and
yeah,
it would be smart to let other people know.
Sure.
But going to the major, we're in a completely different mindset. Like they're like losing's not an option. We're there to win it, the whole thing. So if we come up short, then we're just not good enough.
Okay. Well, like I said, I really appreciate you being honest about this. It sounds kind of doom and gloom here as we're talking about this, but I think it really demonstrates the expectations that you have for yourself as a player, and the team that you're taking part in, and the org. I know from being involved and having a relationship with you guys and Zach that we really want to take that next step and start being the best in NA and winning some of these championships. So hopefully, what you're saying here, has an effect, and we start moving towards that goal. But I think that you do deserve some credit. Obviously, congratulations on finishing, as the highest rated player in NA. Congratulations on qualifying for the NA major, and best of luck there. Like, go kill it, and all of us Dark Zero fans are going to be rooting for you guys.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right,
We
well,
will try to win.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll be rooting for you, man. That's going to wrap it up for us. Everybody, make sure that you are tuning in to the NA Major to see how this all goes down. And thanks so much, Hyper, for taking the time. Anything else you want to say, man?
That's it. Just thank you so much to the supporters and fans. Love you guys. Thank you for sticking with us through these hard times in the NA League. But yeah. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast, Flank.
Oh, no problem, man. And thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one.